it's been an amazing adventure the first 10 years. And in the first 10 and a half years we're in the market, AWS in our latest financials that we disclosed from Q3 this year is a nearly $13 billion revenue run rate business growing at 55% year over year. And yet I would say that we're really at the beginning stages of the meat of enterprise and public sector adoption. And that's in the US. I think outside of the US, they're 12 to 36 months behind, depending on which country you're talking about. And so if you believe like we do, that in the fullness of time, and I don't know if that's 10 years from now or 20 years from now, that virtually no company will own their own data center, and those that do will have much smaller footprints, that means all of that computing is moving to the cloud, so it's just a gigantic opportunity.
Can you put a number on that opportunity? Is it going to be worth billions? Is it going to be worth more than that?
I think if you look at the market segments that AWS addresses with its products, infrastructure software, hardware, data center services globally, that's trillions of dollars worldwide. And so I don't think there'll be only one successful company in this space, but I don't think there'll be 30. This is a space where scale really matters and breadth of functionality matters. So I think the opportunity is really large, and it's one of the reasons why we often say that we think AWS has the potential to be the biggest business at Amazon long term.
Is there room for a multi-cloud world? Is the Microsoft Azure and Google and IBM's, are they going to continue to compete with your business? And is there room for how many players?
Well, there's no question there are going to be a lot of companies pursuing this space. And I would tell you, having worked on AWS since the very start, arguably the biggest surprise for me is just how long it took for other providers to have an offering. I don't think any of us in our wildest dreams imagined we'd have a 6-year head start. It's such a good value proposition for customers that it's gotten so much traction that every large technology every large technology company in the world is pursuing it. I think that there'll be multiple successful players. I think that if you look at most enterprises, when they think about moving to the cloud in a meaningful way, when they do the work, they actually decide predominantly to go with a single provider. And that's because if you spread your workload over lots of providers, you have to standardize on the lowest common denominator. And these platforms are really different at this point. AWS has a lot more functionality by a large amount than any other provider. And most companies don't want to hand-tie their developers from being able to have the full capability that their competitors are going to have.
Let's talk about companies that are going all in. It's this phrase that's used with more and more, I guess, as companies decide to go all in, meaning they sort of get rid of all of their private servers and go with AWS. Is that happening with very large companies?
Yeah. The first to decide to move all into AWS, and this was really kind of a bold decision. It was about 8 years ago, was Netflix. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, by the way, about a third of the internet bandwidth runs through Netflix. Netflix competes very aggressively with Amazon's retail business in the video space. And yet what they realized and decided was that they didn't want to have to keep being world-class at running the infrastructure. And they had great infrastructure people. We know them very well. We would hire all of them. But they didn't want to keep having to be world-class there. They wanted to be world-class at creating unique content for their customers. And so even despite the fact that Amazon's retail business competes with them, they chose AWS as their platform, both because it had by far the best capabilities of any platform out there, but also they knew and trusted that Netflix would be every bit as important a customer to AWS as Amazon's retail business is. And I think they've really lived that. And there are other companies who followed. Suncor, the large financial services and insurance company in Australia, has decided to move all in. Intuit is moving all of their applications to AWS. FINRA is moving all of their applications to AWS. It's a big list.
You're part of Amazon and the most profitable part of Amazon. How do you make sure that the money that you guys are making through AWS is invested back into AWS and not moonshot projects or other projects within Amazon?
Well, it's funny. The only reason that AWS was able to be conceived and was able to actually get the investment required to grow it and build it into a profitable business was because the other businesses at Amazon were doing so well and are doing so well. And the way we think about our businesses at Amazon is that we plant a lot of seeds that we hope in 7 to 10 years grow into trees. And at different times, different businesses will be in different cycles and be more or less profitable, but we are unbelievably blessed at Amazon to have several businesses that are doing really well. And what it allows us to do is it allows us to make investments in brand new potential trees that could be very big businesses and very meaningful for customers. And that's what we'll continue to do across all of our business.
Let's switch gears, go from businesses on the cloud to government on the cloud.
Okay.
I know that you guys have a large portion, the majority of federal government business, but there's still a lot to move on to the cloud, right? How important is it for AWS to win that business?
Well, we're incredibly focused and passionate about serving governments, and it's why we have such a big team focused on it. And if you look at, we have 2,700 government agencies worldwide that are using AWS, and and just a lot of growth there.
Speaking of the federal government, a new administration is about to come in, and I know that during the campaign wasn't, let's call it a hostile relationship between Donald Trump and Bezos. There was a Twitter spat. He promised, he said, if I become president, boy, will Amazon have problems. Do you think that he has the ability to affect Amazon's ability to win government contracts?
I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think Amazon's been around now for about 21 years at this point. We've had several presidents that have been at the helm during that time. And our strategy doesn't change depending on who's the president. We will continue to listen to what customers want and deliver the right long-term customer experiences. We expect the same to be true here.
But with Microsoft's Azure and Google now sort of nipping on your heels, could there be an opportunity for them under a Trump administration? Do you change your strategy at all?
We won't change our strategy. We will continue to make sure that we have the broadest capability for our customers to get more done, spending less money, and do it much more quickly so they can deliver more for our constituents here, not just in the US, but also in other governments worldwide.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.